We're going to have Nick Rose, Enable CFO, and actually a former Enable customer prior to being a CFO as well. Bring on some panelists to talk about how can you more effectively manage your rebates. So with that, I'd like to welcome Nick to the stage.
Sean. Thank you, Sean. So the good news for everyone is it currently says 0 minutes back there, so we're done. I've even beaten Andrew by 15. So anyway, look, great to be here and delighted to be on this panel and 4 fantastic people who I've had the pleasure of meeting a few times in the last couple of weeks. We're going to talk about rebate, rewriting the rebate management playbook. And when Sean asked me to do this, it's kind of how do we break that down? But first of all, let's get the panel up here. And so I think first we've got Paul, who is FD at Wex Photo Video, and there's probably some of your kit in the background here. But yeah, come on up. So you've had Enable implemented for about a year and a half, I think.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, we we sell cameras, photography equipment, mostly to the web across Europe. If you're not into photography, you probably haven't heard of us before, but we're the largest specialist retailer of those products in Europe.
Great. So good to be here. And Darren of Vets for Pets. So you manage supplier relations at Vets for Pets, and way bigger business than I ever imagined, part of Pets at Home. So everyone has probably been in there at least once. But
I hope so, yeah. I don't think there's any of our kit here today, but if anybody
probably
has
not.
got a dog toy or a treat tucked away, then
be
please let me
around.
know.
And Pav is a rebate controller at Geberit, and I guess everyone's probably got some of your products in their house, taps or shower trays or something like that. So. And there is at the back, Matt's. So Matt's with AAP Wholesale, FD there, and actually a former colleague of mine at the TP Group. So it's amazing how these things come around. So look, like I say, great to be taking on this challenge of rewriting this rebate playbook. And when Sean asked me to kind of cover this subject, it really was how do you break that down into manageable chunks and make it an interesting and hopefully a little bit interactive panel. And lucky to have these guys with me. But we're going to base it on something that Andrew was talking about earlier, and it's learning and sharing those joint experiences. And what can we all pick up from that? And 4 super experts in rebates here. Actually, at various stages in the journey with Enable, but probably various different stages in their whole rebate life cycle in your companies as well. So, Paul and Matt have been implemented for a while. Matt's probably quite unique, actually. You've used it in fully implemented state in 2 different companies. Yeah. But Darren and Pav, you're quite early in the journey, and you're just kind of in the final stages of onboarding and implementing Enable into your businesses. So it'd be really interesting to see the difference and how that actually works. We're going to break it down into 3 sections. So the first bit is about rebate management itself and why is it so complex. And we heard a lot from Keith, and he and I did used to arm wrestle over this a little bit. The complexity of rebates are a pain in the backside for most companies, and finding ways through that is essential to success and becoming more efficient as a business. The second part is once you understand that pain, how do you get strategies in place to actually reduce that and work with it, and how do you improve your business performance as a result? And then finally, we'll talk about something that is very special to Enable, which is collaboration. And how do you, once you've got those strategies humming and really working for you, how do you then collaborate with your trading partners, suppliers, customers, friends, and everything else to again improve your business performance and get the right results out? So look, we've got 40 minutes or so left, and we should probably dive into some questions because I've got a lot of them here and on all these cards. and a lot of great answers coming. So look, we're going to start with Pav. You're in the start of your journey, and so probably the challenges of managing rebate programs are quite fresh for you, and you're feeling that pain every day. How have you addressed or mitigated the challenge of managing rebate programs to now, and how do you go about it?
Okay, so I think managing customers' rebate discounts is quite challenging, and that's probably quite due to their variability. I think it's also important to ensure that both you and your trading partner are aligned on what the value of those rebates are. So for us, rebates can vary from, say, a guaranteed rebate for different product groups within each product line, through to annual rebates on overall annual sales. So you're trying to track all of these rebates at the same time and for every customer, and this can result in quite a lot of program lines to manage, and these rebates can change. So on top of that, for us, we may also offer additional support on our project sales, and that's a process which we are currently managing through Enable special pricing agreements. So I think this complexity can make tracking and accruing rebates quite complex, as well as trying to manage your claims process. So I think to mitigate those challenges, I think it's all about automating that process as much as possible. It's about reducing that manual administration, and I think it's about improving visibility between you and your trading partner. And an example of that is through our SPAs, which we are currently going live with our customers through Enable. They can see what we can see, and it's also about managing our claims process through the system.
Huge amount of complexity, especially in those special pricing agreements.
Yeah.
So when you bring 3 parties into the equation rather than 2, it's that extra layer. But Matt, what about you?
Yeah, so I think first thing I'd say is I'm glad I'm on the right panel. Thanks, Nick. I've just seen Pav and myself with the paper-based notes. So we went on the technology AI-driven panel before. We're still old school.
Old school.
So a couple of things, around challenges managing rebates. The first one might sound a bit simple, but just capturing them. So it's a huge thing with internal communication within the business. Sales teams, commercial teams on the supply side, really getting that information. I'm obviously a finance director, so I'm sitting at the back end calculating them. If we don't know about them, we can't accrue them, kind of thing. So capturing them in a central place and really having everything in there was one of the key challenges. And again, it's something that Enable helps with massively. And then the second bit is really being adaptive with rebates, particularly some kinds of rebates, annual volume rebates, etc. They might seem perfectly reasonable at the start of the year, but I think has been said on 2 or 3 of the previous sessions, these things move quickly. And the rebate that you set out at the start of the year with might not be particularly appropriate by a quarter in, never mind the following October, November. So being able to model, to forecast, to look at what is now an appropriate measure and how to then go and speak to your suppliers, speak to your customers about amending those agreements. That's probably one of the big challenges. But again, it's about having that data together, very much as Graham was talking about earlier, and being able to adapt as we go.
Adapting to that complexity and gaining that visibility sounds so important to both of you, really. So if we just kind of change the question a little bit and accept the complexity is there and understand what you're doing about it. Darren, let's go to you. And why is that complexity there? What happens? It's somewhere in the businesses to actually bring out the complexity, and why do people shy away from simplicity and that? And actually, do you think it's a good thing, good or bad?
Yeah. So, 2 questions there remind me to ask about, is it a good thing? Or answer, is it a good thing or not at the end? I think a lot of programs probably start simple, or at least it's the intention when people build them. 2 things happen, other people get involved, and products change, companies grow, product ranges grow, and something that maybe was quite simple at the beginning, if left unchecked, and again, it's been talked about already about reviewing, going back to things, then they get a bit out of control. I've had situations where our suppliers come to us and said, look, we agreed to that a year ago, but we're not allowed to do that anymore, so can we tweak it this way, do that? And something that started life as being quite simple becomes complex. I think sometimes maybe we hand the design of these programs to some of the smartest people in the business, the most data comfortable people in the business, and they may come up with something complex, which isn't always the best idea because it's got to be understood everywhere. But there are those changes and things, keep on coming through, programs evolve. It shouldn't be an exercise in, look how clever this thing I've made is. It's almost got to be, look how simple this thing I've made is and look how easy it is to work with. So I guess then my feeling on complexity is coming through in the nature of that answer is that I don't think it's a good thing. I mean, something I've become very aware of is a good rebate program is not just understood by the people who work with it every day, but you can explain it to your sales team, your colleagues, your finance director, your CEO if they come asking, because they don't want you to spend half an hour telling them about the theory as to how this thing works. They want a 5-minute, right, we do this, we buy this, this comes through, and that's how it pays. And if you can't do that, you're probably going to run into a problem yourself at some point. But that's the sort of simplicity, low complexity that we should be aiming for.
Yeah, there's beauty in there somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah.
And Paul, you were describing a rebate deal to me last night where you have a rebate deal in place with one supplier for, let's say, a camera, and then if you sell that camera at a certain price or through a certain channel, you end up getting a rebate on the stand from a different supplier.
Yeah. It's
that blew my mind, actually. It's kind of bringing in different supply chain.
Yeah, I've been working with rebates in retail for nearly 10 years now, and it's got more complicated and more sophisticated. And in fact, just the straightforward purchase-based rebates we earn is less than half of what we get now. There's a lot of discretionary pots that suppliers have, and we really have to work with them. And our suppliers are global brands, people like Sony, that they dictate the terms, and they might not want to do the same things the way as Fuji do or Canon, and we have to run with that and just do the best we can. But they've got additional funds available if we can work with them to show that we can grow the market, and where the people to come to, and we'll partner with you. So
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. And stick with you for a second, so save passing the microphone around too much.
Yep.
But what lessons have you learned from managing that sort of rebate that you could share with people?
So, I mean, going back to something someone earlier had said, that we've got an ERP system, and the supplier card in there has a little box in there we can put the percentage for the supplier rebate earned. It was like, we knew that didn't work, and we thought we could do it ourselves. And I'm an accountant, so I could do it myself in Excel. And it was a few years ago that we realised we've got about 1,000 people across the group. I'd built the most complicated spreadsheet that anyone was using, so we knew something was wrong, and it wasn't doing it right either. So yeah, we have, we could see at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, we know what we're selling for each supplier. We know what they're paying us in the form of rebates, so you can see the margin. But if it was 2% down on what it was the previous quarter, we couldn't tell you why. And also, we didn't really know, we're allocating this to different parts of the business as well. And are we doing it right? Why is this store doing less well than that store? Or this product category on the website doing worse than this category? And by the time we tried to even get part way close to doing that with Excel, it was way afterwards. So you're doing a post-mortem. It's too late to change course at that point.
Yeah.
So.
Get out of Excel is
the
definitely answer there. I think I would definitely share that one. I've got some scars from Excel at my old place. But Matt, going over to you, what about APP?
Yeah, so I think a couple of things in terms of big lessons to learn. Looking forward as much as looking back. So we've talked about forecasting, we've talked about that. We can build these giant spreadsheets to look backwards, but it's quite difficult building look forwards. But really, probably the most important lesson that I've learned over the years is understanding what the rebate is trying to achieve is the biggest thing. So actually the most important thing is, what is that business goal? What is that supply chain goal? So I've worked in retail most of my life. So I've been kind of on the back end of the chain. I'm now in distribution with APP. It's plumbing and heating distribution. So I'm now at a slightly different position in that chain, but it becomes even more important being the link in that chain of ensuring that what we're trying to achieve as a goal with a manufacturer, with a supplier, then translates into what we're selling to our customers. and the whole rebate, the money flows all the way down the supply chain in the way that we'd like it to, so we all achieve, that equitable share of the value down the chain.
And any kind of words of advice for that position in the middle is pretty tricky.
Yeah, I think it's
Add it up between the suppliers and the
it's
your
interesting. I mean,
customers.
I hate this word as well. I can't remember who it was said I hate the word journey, but we're definitely on a journey with this.
Yeah.
I think when I joined APP, it's fair to say it's quite easy to sit in the middle and almost be a blocker. You think about that fund flowing down the supply chain, but it kind of funds flow as far as the distributor, and then they go down in a black hole, and then some other funds pop out and head down to the customers, and they may or may not be linked at all. But a lot of what we've done internally is trying to link up the commercial teams, the supply side teams with the sales teams, and really concentrate on achieving the same aims across the business.
It sounds dangerously like you're trying to influence behaviour through the whole supply chain.
It's crazy talk, Nick. Crazy talk.
Who would ever want to do that? And that makes a lot of sense to me in terms of what you're talking about. So look, that's the kind of complexity and where rebates sit and the problems we all know and love. And I use the word love advisedly, but kind of switching to strategic context, and how do some of these 4 companies here actually think about rebates from a strategic sense, and where is it coming from on that? So Paul, you've got the mic, so we will come back to Pav and Darren in a sec, but in terms of how do rebates factor into your overall wider business strategy in terms of thinking about your customer base or how you're buying, how do you see those things working?
Yeah, our customer base is smart. They're very discerning. If someone's going to spend £3,000, £5,000 on a camera, they'll spend months researching it. They'll be certainly checking the prices from all our competitors. So we have to price competitively. So we need to. So rebates therefore become part of the lifeblood, and we need to work quite closely with our suppliers to make sure that we're kind of maximising their contributions, so that we are making an equitable profit that everybody can work with on a continued basis. So, and to do that, you need good data. You need good data, and you need it quickly, because it's no point waiting till the end of the quarter to then work out we didn't price this correctly, or we're not getting enough support for this product, because we need those to be able to have those informed conversations, like live on a live basis. So
Data at your fingertips. So is that that word again?
Exactly.
Almost alongside journey is. But Matt, just carry on quickly in terms of strategic intent at your business, and how do you kind of filter the rebate piece into your overall how you go to market and everything?
Yeah, so it's really about bringing rebates into that strategy. So I think historically, certainly in the plumbing and heating sector, rebates have been quite tactical. If you'll commit to buying an extra 1,000 boilers off me, I can give you £20 off each one of them, kind of thing. So a very tactical, short-term, sales-driven kind of strategy, if you like to call it that. Now it's particularly with the evolution of home heating towards electrification, renewable energy, green, etc. Rebates form a key part of how we transition with a new set of suppliers, with our existing suppliers, and how we provide our customers with the products they're going to need in the years going forward, particularly as the industry transitions from boilers to heat pumps, etc. So it is really, really now a key part of helping everyone align behind that movement.
Yeah. And some of the years I spent in that industry, the really enlightened branch managers used to talk about the profit being in the buying, rather than just everyone thinks it's in the selling, and it's really not. You can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's always an interesting conversation, particularly at sort of branch manager level, around how much visibility do you like people to have? How transparent do you want to be in terms of how you've bought a product? How much you're willing to let people play with on a trading basis? But yeah, again, some transparency is good.
Visibility versus risk. And trading it all away. But sometimes people kind of have a rebate program and they attempt to fit that rebate into every supplier relationship they have or every customer relationship. And this is where I think the ERPs do okay, where they have a basic rebate functionality and say we can handle some of the calculations. And to me, that fits into the words of one size fits all, and you can't kind of really treat your trading partners any differently between each other, and you don't get the benefits of having your kind of agileness within rebates. And I know, Pav, in Geber, you're really moving away from that and trying to be more strategic with each individual trading relationship. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we think, I guess, with kind of the implementation of enables, that using technology is quite key. I think it's quite important to have a system that can support different rebate models. And a good example of this is the four of us on this panel. We all come from different businesses, operate in different industries, and we've all got different rebate requirements. Mm-hmm. But I also think it's quite important to have a system that's really adaptable for your business. And that's because your business goals can change over time, and so can the competitive environment that you're in as well. So for us, kind of having that technology kind of will allow us to reduce that, again, administration, processing time. It allows you kind of to reduce the risk of error in calculations, and again, it improves that visibility between you and your trading partner. So it just increases that confidence in the rebate program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so do you find with that extra visibility and insight that you're becoming more able to amend your programs through the year to suit current trading and make the decisions more in the moment? Yeah,
so we're currently using, obviously, trading programs as kind of a contract basis. I think for us, it's more so the visibility around the SPAs. So giving that visibility to our customers, again, they're seeing what we're seeing. It kind of reduces that admin time, the questions that are going back and forth, they can see, rather than sending an email and waiting for a response, they can see what they need to see straight away. Mm-hmm. And in terms of claims processes, improving the efficiency around the claims process and reducing that administration time, allowing more time for analysis, really, rather than spending time on spreadsheets and doing the calculations piece.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff. And just going to Darren, and you've built 100 rebate programs, and you were describing to me how kind of all of your 450 plus vet stores are really their own business, their own company, and so that you're going to have many different versions of or flavors of rebate agreements. And in that context, what do you think are the most important elements of a rebate program that drive the right behaviors in your customers?
Yeah, I'll very quickly say, again, the simplicity. Again, vets are quite smart people. They're not necessarily business people. It's not what they trained in. So it has to be something, but they own the business, or part own the business, and we need to be able to explain to them quickly. They're also busy as well. So we need to explain to them quickly why they receive that much money, or if they're concerned about it not being right. But that's another thing that we haven't touched on yet is reporting out the system. So the ability to report reliably, so that they trust what they're being shown as well, because we have an element of that between the office and the vets. They have to trust what we're doing. They sometimes question it. They wonder what goes on in that mysterious black hole that is the support office. So
wait till they see AI. You've got to trust that as well.
Well, yes, and maybe that's the question earlier. Is that natural cynicism that sits there that you've got to get over. So we've got to be able to show them very, very clearly. Another thing, we've talked a bit about getting away from spreadsheets. And supposed to call it out. A lot of people here will know, but one of the huge weaknesses with a spreadsheet is when something goes wrong. It's very difficult to know when it went wrong, why it went wrong, who did it. And so everything that will come with a system like your own, where all of that is traceable and trackable, and it's so important. Also audit, I don't think has been mentioned yet, so both external and internal audit has been mentioned briefly. I get questions. I dealt with a question from a vet this morning about, right, why is this happening? And I need to be able to answer very clearly with data to back it up, because they're scientists and they like data is data backup. Say, right, this is what has happened, and sometimes there will be mistakes. And when there are, again, of course, own up to them and say, right, this happened. We've identified what's happened because we could see it. We've rectified it. It won't happen again. And all of that's really, so yeah, particularly with that internal customer model we have, it's really important for us to be able to do that because we are answerable to them. They pay us a fee to support them, and we've got to justify that. So yeah.
Super interested. The level of depth of detail you go to with each.
It's
each
hideous.
Of your partners is pretty hideous, and you can imagine if you were on Excel, you'd be struggling a lot with that.
Yes. No comment. Maybe. Yeah.
That's an easy one to answer. And Pav, what about you in terms of the same sort of question? How do you figure out what the important elements of a rebate program are in your space?
So I think for us, we said that it needs to be understandable. I think a lot of people have said that today. It needs to be understandable, needs to be clear goals. So your trading partner knows what their goal is, you know what their goal is, and it needs to be kind of aligned to yours as well. I think a rebate program needs to be kind of tailored towards your customer and the industry that they're in. And again, kind of reiterating what I said before, we're all from, different businesses, different industries. I think in addition to that, it's the claim process needs to be efficient, and I'm kind of going back to SPAs again because I like talking about SPAs. But we need to, especially that's quite key in the world of special pricing agreements. And then most importantly, I think it's also about again, I think what Darren said is the visibility, ensuring that you've got measurable results. Really, you've got the results. They're there. You can measure them. You can do some analysis, and then if you need to adjust or adapt your rebate program, you can do.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So I think with the strategic piece, we're kind of zoning in, I suppose, on clarity, simplicity, visibility, ease of calculation, but also working really closely with your trading partners and actually having them inside the loop and making sure that there's no misunderstandings, everyone's on the same page, and you can actually make decisions together for a greater result between the two of you. And that brings us on to the third sort of section of the panel, which is around collaboration and how do we see that working in the rebate space particularly, and how does it benefit your trading organisation? So maybe we'd stick with Darren on this one. How do you collaborate, and how do you see rebates fostering stronger relationships with your trading partners, and how does that really make the Vets for Pets business stronger?
Yeah, number of things I think. So Keith will be pleased, I think, to know that we do have agreements with most of our key suppliers, and usually that run for a period of time. So, and I think there's then a commitment from both parties in that we're saying to the supplier, we're going to focus on this product, we're going to use it, we're going to encourage our vets to use it. So there's an element of commitment like that from us. The supplier is saying to us, as long as you do that, then we will offer you some good terms, preferential terms. So there's that very obvious commitment from either side. But I think it does bring parties closer together, and I've seen that from both sides. I've worked on what I would now term the supplier side before I was in the role I'm in now. And because you're sharing data, because you've been through the negotiation, you've got to get a contract signed, it just brings you that bit closer with the supplier, which I think generally is a benefit, is a good thing. And also, as we've said here, programs evolve, product ranges evolve, services evolve over time. And whilst it can sometimes be a headache that thing you spent 18 months ago, you thrashed something out, isn't quite working anymore. As long as both parties come into that with the right approach, which is right, we've got a problem here, things have changed, let's work together to solve it. And I've had some really good experiences with suppliers where they've come to us with our internal governance has changed, whatever, we can't quite do what we said we would, but as long as they approach it in a constructive way, you can work through that really well. And I feel we've come out with better relationships. A couple of times someone's come to us and said, we can't do that anymore, it's off the table, and then they just try and walk away, and that's a negative, but I'd like to say that's the minority. But I do think that it just encourages a natural working together more closely. And yeah, as a result, and I think about how we would work and how much contact we would have with some of our suppliers if we didn't have that in place, and it just wouldn't be as strong as it is. So
yeah. Great. And Pav, same same question, sticking with you for another minute. Give Matt a rest on the end. But collaboration in the kind of distribution of plumbing goods, I know, is absolutely critical for it to work properly. So how do you do it at Rebate?
So I think to start with, it's about kind of understanding your customer's business, their operations, and I think that comes from kind of starting that relationship from your sales team. And then it's following that kind of customer experience all the way through to the point of paying rebates, which is all the way at the end with the finance team. So it's important to maintain that ongoing communication. I think that's kind of the key thing for us. And then by having that ongoing communication, you can then monitor your rebate program. So you're monitoring it from the finance side. You're having a look at what the numbers are telling you. And then from there, if there is requirement to adjust or adapt those rebate programs, you can also do that. So I think for us, the key point is in terms of kind of fostering those good relationships is really communication. And that's from the start to the end of the process.
Super stuff. So yeah, that's excellent answers. And Matt, when in your business, you're distributing some of the products Pav's business actually manufactures and sells. So interesting to understand how you would partner with your suppliers and how you would get the kind of find those growth opportunities in your organisation and your sector.
Yeah, so pretty much what Pav said, to be honest. Communication, regular communication. I think Keith talked about the cadence of meetings and the different types of meetings and how regular you are. But I guess the bit I'd build on that we try and do more of now, and we're lucky to have a number of suppliers like Rebate who are on Enable that make this easy for us, is sharing the data as we're going along. So sharing more regularly, sales out data. We've got combinations of rebates that are on purchases that we make and ones that are on sales out from our business and into the different channels of our business. And so sharing that data so that it's not coming as a surprise that we've been sitting looking at some data for 3 months going, it doesn't look like this particular program's working, right? We're probably going to have to work out how we go and talk to the supplier about it, but sharing it. So we're both kind of going through that, use that word again, going through that journey again, going through it together and really learning together how the program's working. So I think that's probably the only thing I'd have to build on it is really how we work practically with them by sharing as much information about the success or not of a particular program as it's running, so we can adapt on the fly. And
that's really interesting because sharing that data is one of those kind of trust issues that you've got to get over in the relationship. And if it's a really strong, healthy, collaborative relationship, you're going to get there a bit quicker and actually gain those mutual benefits faster, I think. Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And I think one of the things that being more structured about the rebates helps as well. You think about spreadsheets again. Spreadsheets can have all kinds of information in there that you didn't want to give to someone. And so you're giving them a spreadsheet, but it's also got your next 6-month forecast. And I didn't want to share that, but you've got to try and remember to strip it out before you send the spreadsheet. So there's a lot of challenges with sharing that data, but I think, the more we work together with information, the better we get. That's exactly it. So just give Paul a sec while he has a drink. But coming to you, Paul, you're in I guess the way you describe it is a slightly different situation where you're dealing with huge suppliers who dictate terms to you, and unlocking opportunities for growth for you might take a little bit of a different flavour. How does that work?
Exactly. As I said, a lot of rebates they have from kind of discretionary funds that we've got to kind of work with them. I think you're entirely right, Matt. It's keeping everybody honest, having those open conversations about here's how we're performing in these different categories. We're seeing kind of, we're quite an agile company. There's changes in the markets. 6 years ago, everyone was buying drones. Then lockdown happened and it was home studio. And now that's evolved into kind of people want high-end kit to produce good quality TikTok videos. So it's kind of a continual conversation with it. This is the stuff we're seeing demand for that our customers are wanting.
So you're passing information.
And trying to come up with ways that excite them about, we can do this. We can give you kind of, a takeover on the website, open days in stores. That we're working together to grow because we've got the same mutual interest to grow the market.
So you're, rather than trying to affect or impact the overall terms of the deal, you're pinpointing where there's pockets of cash that they might have squirreled away to support you on certain kind of targets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think I can second on that as well. What we find with a lot of the big suppliers is there's a pot of money to be shared with the supply chain, and that can be shared in different ways. It's all rebates, but it's marketing support, it's joint investment funds, it's specific product lines, etc., etc.
And we're seeing more of that because it gives the suppliers more flexibility to kind of target things that are proving successful for them. So we need to get in there and get that share of it.
I'm kind of looking at Pav now. You might have that same sort of thing in Geberit as a supplier, where you have those specific funds set aside. Does that ring true for you?
So I think for kind of, again, in terms of rebates, you have quite a few. And like I said, I think what Matt said, like the joint initiative funds and things, it's the same sort of thing, I think.
And it strikes me that as you move towards those kind of more agile approaches, then having some way of keeping track of those rebates and keeping track of who's signed this off, who's done that, who's negotiated this term, becomes even more complex. And we go all the way around the full circle again to that complexity piece, and then trying to keep it simple.
Yeah, and I think that's what the kind of trading programs helps with. It's having that workflow, having the different levels of sign off, being able to track it in your system, and having that there. So
we've got one more question left, and maybe even have a couple of minutes left for any questions for the panel at the end. And that question, I'll ask it for all of you, actually. So whoever wants to go first. But what's one thing you wish you knew about rebates programs a bit sooner?
Shall I start?
Do you want to start with Paul? Because he definitely has an answer for this one. I know that. So.
I think. As I said earlier, we were trying to do it ourselves, and it's too complicated for that. And actually, all we want to do is have kind of an honest conversation with our suppliers, so we can give our customers a good deal. But I think it's people have said the things. We've said it. You need accurate information quickly, data quickly, so you can, on a timely basis, so you can take action quickly and work with your partners to get there.
Timely and accurate information.
Yeah.
Darren, do you want to have a...
Yeah, I guess I'll round off where I'd start, but complexity breeds complexity, so keep it simple. If you can't elevate or pitch it, then just think hard about what you're putting in place. Would be the one thing I would always keep in mind.
That's a great point. That's a very, very common theme all the way through this, actually, is keep it simple. And Matt, Pav, I know you didn't specifically prepare answers for this bit, so this might be a bit unfair, but if you, what about you?
I think I had a bit of an answer, but I think just how important an instrument they are in driving the right buying behaviour. And then I think on top of that, you can tend to get quite bogged down with the kind of administration side and not actually see the benefit of what rebates are, because you're spending so much time processing them. You haven't got, like I said, enough time to analyse them and realise what benefit they are to your business.
No, sure.
Damn,
Final word?
I should have gone before Pav. No, I think every day is a learning day. You're learning about rebates every day. Today I've learned there are businesses where the rebates are less than the profit of that business. Apparently they do exist, but I've yet to work in one. So, I think the power of rebates is the big thing. A fantastic tool to collaborate across whole industries, whole sectors.
Drive that behaviour of the whole industry. So that's all the questions we had, and I will thank you all at the end, but we've got about just under 6 minutes left. If anyone has any questions, we are all that stands between you and a coffee, I think. So do you want to go ahead on the front?
Yeah, I guess I'm just interested from a department view, so a lot of people who speak on these panels are from finance. So, except for you, Darren. So I'm interested to see is, from your business point of view, which department drives rebates and the changes in rebates?
Question.
Go on, I'll try that first from a finance perspective. Apologies. Yeah, sorry about that. I think it starts out with finance. I think because initially the most complex thing is calculating them and understanding them and accruing them and getting them right in the financials. So it will always start from finance, I think. But increasingly, certainly I've found in the APP business, as the commercial and sales teams have got a handle on how powerful these can be and how well they can use them, and how it really can drive that buying gain and the margin up. Because otherwise I'm constantly beating them up for not making enough margin. So I think the more they understand that, the more they engage. And now we're almost flipping it. So we're being asked more of in finance from the other departments.
Can I just add to that as well? Because it's exactly the same. It's finance, because we see the margins. We pull it all together at the end. But now, since using Enable, the commercial team, they're the people negotiating with the suppliers, and they were kind of like saw themselves as wheeler dealers a lot. It's moved to a more like transparent situation, and what we're finding now is kind of, now they're using Enable, they're kind of bought into it more. They've got more ownership about what the final result is, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So some balance, and I suppose it's why I'm sat here, as you identified, is I think it's a combination in our business, ourselves and the vets actually, because they come to us, and as I've said, that internal service model we have is, right, what can you get for us? So they're expecting it, and it's one of the key responsibilities of my team is to come up with them. And actually, I'm pleased to say, maybe not people sat alongside me, is finance administer them, but certainly aren't driving it. Obviously, they're pleased to see it, but it's very much sits with us as a responsibility. Yeah. So some difference at least. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually think it's the business strategy that drives it, and if you're setting your business plan at the start of the year and everyone embraces that and says this is what we're going to do, and you set out your goals, then it's about coming up with plans to achieve those goals, and you know that means every part of the business has to work together, and we go back to the collaboration piece. So I can see procurement driving rebate income from suppliers because they want more and more and more, and if their bonus scheme and their targets are set in the right way, then they'll be driving the rebates. Same on the flip side with sales. Use the rebates to drive more share of wallet with your customers, whatever, and finance acts in the middle to pull it all together and make it actually add up and say, yes, we've achieved our plan, or not, or if we are falling behind, this is what we could try differently to catch back up. So I actually think it's a collaborative thing, just to keep Darren included and part of the team here. So 4 finance people on stage. But yeah, we've got time for probably one more.
So in that same theme, who administers the program lines for each one of your businesses? So from left to right, who does that program line? Who administers it?
From your left? From your left?
From your, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was me. It's now the category managers.
Okay.
So they do that.
Yep. And yourself?
Yeah. So for us, it sits in finance. So at the moment, we're the ones that we communicate with the sales team. So we know what's going in after those communications and after it's all agreed. And then what we do is we process the program lines in the system. So we're effectively using the system.
And that's for both customers and?
Well, just customers for us.
Just customers?
Customers for us, yeah.
Okay.
So for us, I guess we administer it. So, and supplier relations team have a kind of category management and trading responsibility within that, and finance check it. So it gives us the 4 eyes principle as well. So yeah, we do it, but it gets checked too by a separate department.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess the commercial and sales teams capture them, but it's all administered in finance in my world.
Okay. Thank you. So 4 different ways of doing it, slightly.
Yeah. Who wanted clarity anyway? Right. So, cool. I'm looking at Sean. We'll do another one. Great. Yeah. This sounds dangerous now.
Yeah, so I think great panel discussion. And my question was, in terms of kind of tactical versus strategic relationships, I think on the tactical end, I see that, suppliers have got these, we've talked about, pockets of money, and Nick, you said squirreling these funds away and so on. And it's like, and almost the implication is they're trying to pay as little as possible, and then the distributor is trying to get as much as possible. And it's kind of very like them and us. And I appreciate that does go on, and that's fine. And then on the other extreme, strategic, it's genuinely working together to say, suppliers want to actually provide funding to get great results, and distributors want to work with suppliers. And I'd just love to hear, again, what you see in reality there, because I'm sure each of you has, different relationships, across that continuum. But to what extent is it very kind of tactical versus actually quite joined up? That's what I'd like to know.
Shall I start? I think for us, it's you kind of get that feedback. The salespeople are out in the market; they can see what's going on. They're speaking to the customer, and I think for us, that's where you get that understanding of what's going on and whether or not rebates need to change. And therefore, you do your analysis. You look into whether or not they need changing, and you change them if it's the right business decision, really. But I think it's just understanding the market, understanding what's going on with your customer. And different markets obviously run differently. So I think that's from me.
Yeah, I think both have a place in our business. They're both going on. The tactical side, there might be a buying gain here to be had, some market share to grab off a competitor there. So they're both, I wouldn't want to lose that tactical flexibility, but I think increasingly we're seeing the strategic side of things kind of grow and those partnerships grow. So
I was going to say, quite often we find we are working with suppliers for the same goal. We see market changes in the market. TikTok has been a big thing for the last couple of years. It's kind of, we're both trying to figure out how to best grow our share of that. So yeah, it's kind of, it's trying to do innovative things as well, work together. So we're not just looking at how much we're buying. It's like, how much are we going to buy from you in the future?
And I think with us, it's a big emphasis on strategic. I think it's the nature of the market we work in. I haven't really said, but a lot of what we're procuring is medicines, specialist services. The market's the supply market is fairly constricted on what's out there. It doesn't change that quickly. We've got long development times on medicines, things like that. So for both parties, the supplier and ourselves, we want long-term relationships. There's also the complexity of explaining what we're doing again to our vets, and you don't want to be changing that every 5 minutes because it doesn't work. But I think there's always that need for a little bit of tactical movement, and almost the knowledge for us that the suppliers got a little bit left, because you never know again what demand's going to come in. If you've wrung every last penny out of somebody, then there is nowhere to go. But it's predominantly strategic, and I think again the nature of, and it's the only industry I've really worked in, but it's just the nature of where we work. Yeah.
Awesome. So look, thanks for listening, and hopefully it's been quite informative. I'm super grateful to Matt, Darren, Pav, Paul. Thank you so much for your time. It's great to ask real customers and have real deep discussions about what you're doing with rebates, and understand and share some insights into to how to strategically run your rebates side of your business. I think Sean's going to come up and tell us what's going on next, and that's it. Thank you.